Professor, thank you so much for your time and patience. Before we get into anything else, the last 12, 15 hours, there have been major developments. The High Court ruling, people going to court, people making threats, protesters who are now countering what other protesters had done earlier and saying that we are in full support of whatever is happening. You're a professor of economics. Break it down for us. What readings have you made into this?
Thank you very much for having me today. I think it's a very disturbing scenario, watching people queuing up, and if you've been watching the social media, and you would have seen some ugly videos and pictures making the rounds of desperation and frustration of people who are strapped for cash and then looking for respite that isn't coming from the banks. That has also culminated in the attacks of certain bank branches, ATM, and even bank staff. So it's quite ugly, and that is not telling well of the policy, regardless of what the motivation or the incentive is. So what we're seeing, actually, there is no reason for any Nigerian to lose his or her life because of anything. So whatever be the justification. Because when it comes to policies, what we say is that the end justifies the means. But given what we're seeing right now, I'm not sure that this change of currency, sudden abrupt change of currency is really something that people, I am not happy with that.
Very well.
From an economic point of view.
Right.
From an economic point of view, I don't see what is the big deal in the changing of the decolor. Changing of colors of the currency or whatever. It's still the Naira. So in other words, we haven't actually changed any currency. What we change is the paper on which the Naira that carries the value of the Naira, because Naira is a Lego tender. The paper doesn't worth anything. The value of the Naira as a Lego tender derives from that fiat, what the law says. So the law says that this paper is worth this, and then people, based on fiduciary or credibility or the confidence they have on the financial system, will take it. So in other words, the paper is still what it is. So what I know that happens over time is that as a result of change in technology and technological advancement and innovations, maybe the security features in currencies may be caught up with technology, and then there is need for an improvement, to ensure against counterfeiting and all of that. So countries may have to upgrade the technological and the security features in their currency. That's actually what normally happens, and as a result, they will find ways to remove currencies that are in circulation and replace them with the new ones with superior security features. So that shouldn't cause any problem, because even here, I often talk about that in recent times, that we've seen currencies change, because if you take any 1,000 Naira note or whatever, any notes, you will see that they've been signed by the current CBN governor, Emefiele, meaning that the ones that we used to see signed by whether Soludo or Sanusi, they've all been withdrawn out of the system, and nobody, worried about that. Nobody knew when that happened. I'm sure that this same thing could have been done seamlessly without all this brouhaha and all this pandemonium. Okay.
Prof, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to come back to you, and then we'll talk about whether or not this is becoming more of a political issue than one for economics. But Saviour Akpan is back on a connection on our Zoom link, and I want to take your thoughts. Saviour, only the last 12 or so hours, we spoke about this passionately. We talked about what the consequences could be. It would seem that the lines have begun to grow again at the ATMs, and the confusion with where people lie politically regarding this issue had also ballooned over the last 12 hours. What do you make of those developments the last few years? Saviour, you're muted. Unmute so we can hear you.
Okay, you hear me now?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, thank you very much for having me. This is a very pathetic and unfortunate situation, which sometimes some of us in this part of the divide have been thinking whether actually we have people who are planning for the economy of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Because just like Prof has just rightly submitted before now, this is a process that can be done seamlessly without making the people to feel all these kind of pains. But do we really have planners in this country? Who are those handling the economy of this country? What are their plans? In 1984, or in 1983 or 84 thereabout, this country went through a process of changing the Naira notes. And this was done in such a way that when you take your old note to the bank will collect the old note and issue with you the equivalent of the new note without the old note coming back to you. Mm-hmm. In this case, if the CBN is telling us that he is distributing or they are distributing 30 million to each of the branches of the banks across the country, I personally doubt that, because the CBN also have a responsibility to follow through to see to it that this money in question is actually at the banks and is being disbursed for public access. But the way things are going, my fear is a possible breakup of law and order. Because when people get tired, when they are pushed to the wall, there's going to be a reaction based on this action. So, to me, I'm afraid what will happen to our economy in the coming days. And unfortunately, we are practicing a democracy, which what I'm seeing is a democracy that is by court order. Because most of the intervention of the court on certain issues, sometimes you look at it as if, do we really have people who sit down and think about the reaction that will follow each of the government action and each of these court orders? For example, is in the news, the court has stopped the president for further extension and whatever, what have you. And the question is, are they doing this thing on our collective interest or based on their own political interest? Because if you are doing this, excuse me.
Well, we'll give you a minute to grab some water, Saviour, and then come and make that point about, the legal leg of this entire cash swap issue. In the meantime, I'll go back to Professor Adi. Professor, are the politicians helping matters?
Well, like I said, there is nothing economic about change of currency, even though some people may want to adduce some kind of economic implication to it, that may curtail inflation or better monetary policy management. Yeah, but there's nothing in economic theory that really specifies that if you follow it technically. So that means the only thing that you can associate with this policy will be political. Now, yeah, just as my colleague was saying about the court injunction, people going to court to obtain an injunction, to compel the federal government not to, extend the deadline and all of that. But we know that the central bank, by the way, is not answerable. It's an independent agency, independent of the presidency and executive. So the autonomy of the central bank is sacrosanct. So I don't think that whatever comes from the court will impact what the monetary policy managers have, plan to do or they're already doing. So yeah, so you see, the challenge that we have here is that, again, why we say that this is a wrong policy, at the wrong time, and then without enough time also given to people, because this is something, we have to consider our people, we have to consider the nature of our society. We are not like India, because I heard one of the presidential aspirants saying that, okay, the same thing happened in India, and then it also leads to death, and therefore, no, we just don't have to be copying and pasting anything. We have to look at our people. This is an economy that is, a society that is still technologically backward. Even when you transfer money from your app, from your phone, sometimes you get money debits a lot, and then nothing happens. And then if the recipient doesn't get the fund, and then you expect a reversal in 24 hours, it never happens, except you go to the bank, and that sometimes takes a long time, weeks, months, and sometimes you don't even get reversal. So we have these kind of technological challenges and constraints in our system, and then someone is imposing such a draconian policy, and then without giving people enough time. Okay, we have to consider people. Initially, I had been in support of this because of the political undertone, because we heard that some people have stockpiled cash for the election, and that would lead to vote buying and inducement of voters such that the will of the people will not emerge. But I'm saying that doesn't even, I think the situation is actually worsening right now, because the politicians have control of this system. They will, as we have seen, they will simply give instruction to their banker friends, because they're all part of the same thing. So they are the ones who control the banks, who own the bigger shares in the banks, who own the deposits in the banks. So all they need to do is to tell the account manager, I need such an amount of money, not let anything pass until I've, the way, so, and it's happening.
So, Professor Adi, just seeking clarification.
It's still the same poor people that are suffering from it. Still the same people that are being victimized by the same system. So how does it work? And as it is right now, they've become even more pauperized, okay, miserized, such that during the election, so rather than solving the problem, we are worsening it, because now that people don't have cash, anybody who gives them, even if it is 1,000 naira to vote, because when your family has been without food, without money for weeks, and then you have the next 1,000 naira, your consideration would be to feed your family, not about who wins or who loses the election.
Very well. I'll come back to you for clarification on the legal ramifications of the two court cases that we know have been brought around the cash swap policy. But Saviour, you're back, and you were making a point about the latest federal high court ruling on the same matter.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said earlier, whose interest is the court, ruling on? Is it on the interest of the masses, interest of the federal government, interest of the politicians, interest of the political parties? Because I see no reason for anybody to even approach a court in this matter if it was well planned. But we are running a democracy by court order, which we all, at the end of the day, wait for the court to take decision and give us directives, even when they are supposed to interpret certain action or inactions of the executives and other arms of government. Again, the situation that we are into in the country today, by virtue of this currency change, to me, make me to draw conclusion about insincerity on the part of government. I am saying insincerity on the part of government, coming from the background of the CBN informing the general public that there is enough cash to circulate, and equally giving us maybe a withdrawal limit of 20,000 naira over the counter, and so on and so forth. Because if the CBN is sincere that it has actually disbursed this fund to the banks for transaction for public use, I wanted to see a situation that the CBN will come and tell us, okay, bank XYZ have violated that rule, and then you sanction one bank or two for violating your order. But that has not happened.
But some arrests have been made. Or a couple of arrests.
Forget about arrests in Nigeria. Let me tell you one thing about arrests in Nigeria. Arrests in Nigeria is always similar to when they say they have set up a panel of inquiry on an issue. It's just to divert the attention of the citizens. Who is arresting who? And if you have arrested them, why not also cause that this money be put into the ATM machine so that they can dispense to the public? You only arrest, and then before you know it, they will tell you they are doing investigation. Investigating what? It is very, very shameful. And in fact, to me, it means that the people does not care about the citizenry. Otherwise, if you are doing a change of currency of the nation, it's very simple. You have 10,000 naira old notes. take it to your bank, deposit it into your bank, and then you get equivalent of that.
And Saviour, you were asking,
yes,
whether the court ruling is in favor of the masses. But here is a section of the masses who are saying that we support whatever is going on because of some politicians who may be piling up cash in their homes and would want to rig the elections with their cash. So I mean, if I am the court and I am not, I will definitely find myself in a fix, won't I? Does that help the situation?
Not. That's what I'm saying. If we are doing this, okay, to check the politicians from buying votes and selling votes or whatever, we would have done it in such a way that, okay, for now, the withdrawal limit of every citizen in Nigeria, like before now, was around 150,000 naira a day. So why didn't we say, okay, for a period of 3 months, deposit your old notes. After that, we close the position of old notes, and then people start withdrawing. But in this case, we are not even running the old and the new notes simultaneously, and people don't even see the note. Yesterday, I did a personal study. I was interviewing POS operators in Abak local government, where I stay here in Akwa Ibom State. And one of the guys was bold enough to tell me that he does not even get the money, even the old notes from the bank, that he's getting the 100,000 naira he's dispensing to customer from a filling station. Who now sold this money to them with to call that they give you 100,000 and you pay them 10,000.
I see.
So as a result of that, they bring this to the public and be giving them. If you are taking 10,000, they will collect 2,000 naira from you because they had to make profit.
Very well. I'll move us along quickly so that we can cover as much as possible. Professor Adi, I just want us to touch briefly and quickly on the legal cases. We know the High Court ruling, but we also know that Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara states have also decided to take the matter to court. How will these two cases pair regarding the cash swap policy now?
This is a monetary policy issue. So I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is that when it comes to matters of monetary management, it is the sole preserve and exclusive, jurisdiction of the central bank, which is an autonomous economic planner, for any economy. So it's not answerable to those other institutions. They're not subnational entities, and not even the federal executive. So I doubt that that will be of any effect. So they are the ones to make the policies. They have their reasons for doing so. I'm only looking at it from the face value of it. So what is the implication for the economy? I've also argued in the past that, well, from my own understanding of economics, it has no implication, because if you look at the determinants of inflation or disinflation, changing the currency is not part of it. It's not one of them.
Very well.
Even exchange rate determination also is completely inconsiderate, not part of it. So having said that, they know why they decided at this point in time to do this. Maybe they have some information that people are hoarding currency, as I said earlier. But again, the way it is going means that the state seems to be afraid of its own citizens.
All right. So when we come back, I want us to look at the consequences of this on security, on elections, but we'll also hear from the everyday people who are queuing for long hours at the banks and at ATMs for hard cash.
News Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the News Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on News Central's social media platforms. News Central, Africa First.
Welcome back. It's day 2 of our coverage of Nigeria's cash swap policy. It's 3 days to the deadline of engaging the atmosphere in Abuja. We've been talking to our panelists, Bongo Adi, a professor of economics, and Saviour Akpan, executive director of COMPPART Foundation, about what the consequences will be if things remain the way they are. So let's continue our conversation. But before we do, let's take you back to Abuja and listen to some people who have been queuing long hours at the ATMs.
This is so bad. I can't tell you lie. I think the end of the country has come because Buhari has done the worst. This is the worst military government, civilian government that I have ever seen. And this should be the last. What they are doing is very bad. They are supposed people to hardship. Sooner or later, most companies will start laying off their staff because revenue is not coming into the company.
The business has been very slow, and the turn-up was, since last 2 weeks, the turn-up was so bad, and this week it increased. Because you will make orange of maybe 5,000 and you will not be able to sell it all, you just take the rest home to go and drink.
Last week, Saturday, I transferred 32,000 Naira to someone in First Bank. I was debited, and the person did not receive the money. So I came to Zenith yesterday to find out what is the cause. I was told that they have shut down the bank, that they are not working.
I got to this place 7:30. When I came here, they said they didn't come to work today because Zenith is having internal issues and there's no possibility of them even loading the machine. So I crossed to the other side of the road to join queue at Sterling. While I was there, I saw people forming queue. I had to come back and ask what is happening. They said they've started paying. Though the line is moving very fast. But the sad thing is that if it's Zenith to Zenith, it's just 5,000. While other banks is 2,000.
The micro impacts of the cash flow policy on the people of Nigeria is very apparent. We hear and we live it every day. Let's talk about the macro impact, particularly on the banks. And Professor Adi, I want to start with you. You heard what the lady said. Zenith, in her branch of Zenith, did not show up today. And we've had reports of branches closing, not only because they do not have the cash to give, but they are also afraid for their lives because of angry customers. What is this doing to the banking industry?
Disruption they're discussing, okay? This is an economy that has not managed a strong growth. I mean, we've grown on average 2% over the past 8 years. So we are struggling for growth. I mean, I don't know if you're following the news today even. One of what used to be adjudged to be one of the most successful project finance infrastructure projects in Nigeria is now facing default. The Azura Power Plant in Edo State. So they're about defaulting on the 1 million debt servicing obligation. And why is that the case? Because of the situation Nigeria is. So we may be going the direction of Ghana and some other countries as a result of the global pandemic of inflation and supply constraints coming from the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. So this is not the best time for the country to have any disruption in the economy, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Not manage a 2% growth, they are growing. So this self-inflicted recession or recession-looking policy by the central bank is completely undesirable, unacceptable. Okay, and it shows that they never thought through this whole process. Okay, if they did, if they would have understood that this run on the banks would have happened, that these angry citizens will take it out on the banks. I've seen clips of even bank staff jumping over the walls just for their lives. I've seen clips of angry bank customers, taking it out on bank staff innocent people, okay, vandalizing cars and destroying properties of innocent citizens who are also suffering like themselves. So, I mean, like I said,
would you go as far as say that perhaps when the dust settles, the banks could be looking for customers because then the trust is broken, people will want to keep their small cash to themselves?
No, I mean, what it means is that if this dust settles, right? So you can see that it's just a way of moving people to the digital banking or electronic banking they've been preaching over the years. So I'm not sure that it's going to be, no rational person will want to hold cash or, transact in cash. So I think it's creating an opportunity for some kind of innovation in e-payment systems to be launched by entrepreneurs, which will improve payment. But I think that should have been happened. Is one of the things that they should have incentivized or supported, using one of these fictitious schemes the central bank has been doing over the years. So they could have, incentivized e-payment like you have in Kenya, the M-Pesa and all of that. We should have thought about that, maybe rolled out such kind of schemes. Even on your phone, if you open your phone, if you have a Samsung phone, for instance, you have what they call the NFC.
Very well.
NFC is a payment platform that you use everywhere in the world. So just swapping your phone against someone else, or in a shop, transactions are closed. So there is no need to for people to suffer all this. There are solutions everywhere. Like that young man says that this is the worst administration that he's seen over the years. I'm actually pushed to say that as well. So I cannot see why people are so inconsiderate of the sufferings of the masses, or of the pain that people have been going through in an economy that is struggling, gasping for breath in the past 8 years. It is unacceptable.
I'll move on to Saviour now. And Saviour, feel free to take a dig at the banking industry issue. But my main question to you, yesterday we talked about the elections. New developments have emerged since then. Now we know that the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria is also looking to stop selling fuel to us. Again, I'm asking you, is February 25 really going to happen?
Thank you very much. I think, like I said yesterday, I'm not the INEC chairman, because this is also going to be another test for him to prove to us that he is actually competent on the job. But if we look at the issues of this currency change vis-a-vis the election, I doubt how credible, how fair we are going to have an election in an environment that is so tense that there is increased depression among the citizens. Because there's going to be increased number of persons that are going to commit suicide. Yes, Nigerians can survive any form of hardship, but not this type that these guys we have been tricked. Let me use that word, tricked to bring our money into the bank, and then you cannot have it to solve basic needs. Like I said earlier yesterday, this is school resume on the 9th of January. So this is about the 4th or 5th weeks of resumption, which owners of private school will start driving these children out of school looking for their school fees. And you cannot have access to enough fund to fund the school fees of your child. Okay, somebody just said you had to collect 2,000 naira from the bank. So assuming your child is attending a school that you pay 30 to 50,000 naira, you need 100 days to get to 2,000 naira to be able to pay the school fees of a child. So imagine a parent that is having up to 4, and these children does not understand what we are talking about here. So they don't want to know. All they will be here is, Daddy, when are you paying my school fees? Mommy, when are you paying my school fees? A lot of parents will be thrown into depression.
Right.
If you want to go and change the oil of your engine car, your machine or motor car, you cannot have enough funds to be able to acquire maybe a 4-liter gallon of engine oil and the oil filter, let alone have money to pay the mechanic that is going to do the servicing for you. So many things.
The problem now is even if you find the cash, the difficulty will be that you will not find the fuel if this Ipman threat is anything to go back by. And that's why, Professor Adi, I want you to come in again. Look, are we headed for an economic crash if our wars continue to deepen?
I hope you listened to what I was saying earlier. So I just told you that today in the news that one of the most successful project finance infrastructure projects in Nigeria is heading to a default. Okay, because of the exchange rate and inflation problem, they are unable to meet their debt service obligation. So if that is a problem, we are headed in that direction. I said we may be looking towards the direction of Ghana, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, so many other countries that have, already our sovereign default rating is going down and down and down. You also saw the Moody's rating that downgraded Nigerian bonds to below junk status. So what does that tell you? Not much needs to happen, because even as at that point, so they based on the analysis on escalated socio-political risk. Now, but before even then, we didn't have this banking situation, the run on the banks, and this whole imbroglio that's going on right now. So if you put that in the mix, it means that the socio-political risk has escalated to the point where our bonds have even gone below junk, further down, and is actually about to trigger a default. I mean, that shouldn't come from me, because sometimes when we talk, so we have a way of also instigating some of this crisis by the way we speak to them.
Right.
So I'm not praying for that to happen, but I think we need to arrest the situation right now before it degenerates any further.
Indeed. I'll move on to you now, Saviour. The economic situation obviously is going hand in hand with a security situation as well. You have a foundation that looks into peace building and justice. Talk to us about how this could affect the security of people. Already our bankers are afraid to stay in their offices. What are we looking at here?
We are going to have a high rate of insecurity in the country, especially the level of safety and security consciousness of the people already is declining. It's declining in the sense that where our people here, where I come from, we have an adage that says it's the one that is in the stomach that you use to carry the one on the head. When people are hungry, and some of them you see the food, but the food is more or less like in a glass bottle, where you can only have a glass of it, or you cannot have access to it, because there is no money in circulation. The economy of Nigeria currently is at a standstill, because the speed of buying and selling and the extent of buying and selling is already crumbling. Now, it also affects the people, because when they overthink, they will now indulge into things that they are not supposed to do, because everybody wants to survive. This afternoon, before this interview, I was at the police station trying to figure out things for myself as to how this is affecting even the police who have been asking for bail. They only mention the amount of money they want to collect, but they can't see it. So a lot of persons, as of this afternoon, I can tell you that so many persons are incarcerated in the police station because the relatives are unable to meet up with the cash demand to bribe these police officers to enable their relatives to gain freedom.
But bail is free. I mean, maybe it exposes the corruption.
I agree that the Nigerian police force will tell you that bail is free, but I want to tell you bail is not free. This is because the reason why bail is not free in Nigeria is as a result of the overzealousness of relative of alleged crime victims. And two, the unpatriotic display of duties by the police officers themselves. I said it and I continue to say it with no apology. 75 to 85% of members of the Nigerian police are not patriotic. They didn't join the force because they are patriotic, they want to save their fatherland. They joined the job because that is only where you can have an immediate opening that will not that your qualification does not really matter. At the end of the day,
we'll leave it here for now. We'll be here again, same time tomorrow on The Square to discuss another very important matter to you. Make sure you're a part of the gathering. My name is Keminni Amanor. Stay safe.